Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and I'm really excited for the show that we have for you today and our guest, Ron Saharyan. Oh, I said it wrong again. Saharyan. Is that right?
Or it's close. It's very you definitely get an A for effort. Saharyan, like the desert.
Saharyan, like the desert. All right, Ron, we're just going to stick with Ron today and make it easy on everyone. But we're talking about how to make profit first in your business. You've all heard me talk a lot about generating income and wealth and building your businesses. But how do we do that efficiently in taking profit first? And this is something very dear to my heart that we've implemented in our own family, in our own businesses. And I've worked with my clients on implementing this into their businesses. So today you get a glimpse of how you can implement profit first into your business so that you are profiting first and taking profit from your business and not waiting until the end to see if there's any money left over. But before we get to Ron today, I would love to thank our sponsor, Dr. Melissa Balazan. Are you in pain or are you suffering from anxiety or depression? Do you suffer from constipation? Are you being treated for chronic conditions such as high blood pressure or high cholesterol? Are you tired of taking medication after medication? Are you really ready to ditch the pills and discover the root cause? Well, at Ask Dr. Melissa, she helps her clients shift from a plethora of pills to just a few truly necessary ones. Together, they peel back the Band-Aids and get rid of the unnecessary things that are treating the symptoms. It's time to treat the root cause. She's 50,000 hours as a clinical pharmacist, and she leverages the established benefits of Eastern and Western medicines, focusing on the true root cause of the issue and address it from the core. So you can schedule your call and consultation with her today at askdrmelissa.net. That's askdrmelissa.net. And we're so happy that she was able to sponsor our show today. So thank you, Dr. Melissa. Now, let's move on to our guest, Ron. And since starting Profit First Professionals in 2014, from the basement of Mike's house, and we're going to talk about who Mike is in just a minute, Ron has implemented, certified, and taught Profit First to hundreds of accounting, bookkeeping, and coaching firms throughout the globe. Whether a newer business or a 100-year-old firm, Ron has taught firm owners how to properly experience, practice, implement, monetize, and share Profit First with their customers. Ron is an expert in value pricing and has created the Profit First value pricing curriculum. He lives in my hometown state of New Jersey and is married. And I believe you said you're living with your daughter. Is that correct? How old is your daughter?
My wife and my daughter. She's 11.
Right. 11. Right. Beautiful. Awesome. Yeah. I couldn't imagine having an 11-year-old child when we have 12 grandkids and we have a 19-year-old, an 18-year-old, and then they drop all the way down to 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You know, they just kind of all go down. But yeah, I couldn't imagine having an 11-year-old at home right now. So props to you, Ron, for that.
It's a lot of fun. And, she runs Profit First in her home
I'm
life.
Sure she does.
She's got her envelope. She's got her charity. She's got her Lululemon. She's got a system.
That's beautiful that we're teaching children at a young age, because that is what changes the future. If you want to make an impact, you need to be the change. We talk about this all the time. So Ron, many people are asking like, well, that's so great that you talk about taking a profit from the business, Colleen, but what if I can't afford to take a profit? That's the number one thing I hear is I can't afford to take money out of my business. So Ron, why don't we just dive into, Mike Michalowicz is a gentleman that I met through Profit First as the author of the book Profit First, which any of you that are listening to the podcast right now, I'm showing the book on the video. You can always go over to Colleen Biggs on our Facebook and be able to see the Profit First book. And we recommend that you get those. We're going to talk about more of those today. But talk to me about yours and Mike's relationship, how you got started, why Profit First, and what makes it so important. People love to hear the background of how things were built.
Yeah, sure. So thank you first off for having me on here. I
Yeah.
love what you're doing and, just providing me with this platform to share. So thank you.
Yeah.
So Mike and I, we've known each other since grade school. We actually grew up in the same town, went to the same grade school, went to the same high school, played on the same sports team, and even sat at the same lunch table. He's 2 classes ahead of me. So Mike graduated, went to college. I went to college, and then we still remained friends. Of course. And so we're first friends, business partners second. And over those years, Mike was starting his businesses and he would ask me to join him. And I would say no. I took the corporate route. So Mike took the entrepreneurial, I took the corporate. And every so often, Mike would be like, hey, I want you to read my book and I want to start a company with you. Well, unfortunately, the first couple of companies I turned down, and just because I was doing well in the corporate world.
Yeah.
But then I had enough, got a company to its all-time high revenue, consultants on the street and margin. And I was told we were done scaling. And I'm like, ugh. So I happened to just send out my emails. Hey, anybody got anything going on? Mike said, hey, Ron, I want you to read my manuscript. I'm like, here we go again. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I read it and I'm like, I do this. He's like, what do you mean you do this? I said, this is how I was taught. This is grandmother's envelope budgeting methodology, and you made it into it for businesses. That's brilliant. And so I said, yeah, let's do this. And over a bottle of wine, we ended up deciding to start Profit First Professionals to certify accounting firms, bookkeeping firms in the Profit First methodology so that they can implement this system in all of their businesses that they work with.
That's beautiful. So how I met Mike was I started implementing Profit First into our book club. So the Leap for Ladies community that I run brings in female entrepreneurs and women in corporate that are in business development to network together, to learn together. And what's interesting and unique about Leap for Ladies is we provide a lot of spotlights for the females to step into those spotlights, expand their branding, expand their influence to attract their customers. And we do this through the podcast, the LinkedIn interviews, and those types of things. And of course, the links are below for anyone who would like to learn more information on that. But when I implemented Profit First, I did it with my clients before we implement it into the book club. And I brought it to them in one of our business intensive trainings that we do every quarter. And I said, I've implemented it into my business. My husband had implemented it. My daughter-in-law had implemented it into her business. Now, we had always followed the Dave Ramsey kind of debt snowball using the envelope theory, but this is way different, right? This is a lot different. So that's how I met Mike Michalowicz, because my clients all reached out to him because one of the first pages in the chapter of his book says, I want you to email me and tell me, what I think he says, email me and tell me what your goals are, that you're going to do this, or you're going to take step one, or whatever it is, right? That was the first step to commit, the commitment line. And so they all emailed him and said, our business coach, Colleen Biggs, went ahead and has been implementing this. So about 3 weeks later, I get a package in the mail from Mike. And he sent me all of these amazing things and thanking me, and sent me his next book. And I started emailing him back and forth. And so we got on a friendly basis. And that's how I met you, Ron, was through that conversation that we had. And he praises you on, he's like, you got to talk to Ron. Ron's the guy. He sets all this up. He does everything. He is Profit First. That's what, how Mike explains who you are, Ron. So tell us for our listeners, when they hear you say Profit First, they're like, I can't afford to take anything else out of my business. Let's tell them a little bit more about what Profit First is and what it means and why it's so important for anyone in their businesses, if they're running a traditional kind of CPA way of accounting, which is what we all know.
Absolutely. And Mike's a good one. He likes to prop me up there, but he's the mad scientist. I just keep the plate spinning.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. Profit First is not accounting. It's not bookkeeping. It's a system, a cash flow system that resides between financials, which are historical documents that happened, and forecasting, which are hopes and dreams. Profit first is the system on how you allocate your money to achieve those forecasting to make sure you don't overdo it. And so most business owners understand that they have a need for a marketing system, a hiring system, delivering their product systems, all sorts of systems, but none of them actually have a cash flow system, that they're going to have clarity on, where they're going to know the ebbs and flows of their business, where they're going to actually be empowered. For many times, implementing profit first, it empowers the business owner because they're moving their money and they're in control of it. Right. Mm-hmm. They also are experiencing relief. They have a system and a plan. Then they're empowered because they're moving the money. Now they can focus on their job. And so profit first is all about flipping the equation. Everybody's been taught sales minus expenses equal profit. Mm-hmm. My graphics, right?
Yeah.
It pains me because we've all been taught this system. Sell, manage your expenses. Whatever you have left over is the profit. Yeah. Leftover.
No.
Whatever's left over is not important. You don't want. If you get picked last for a kickball, you're probably not good at kickball.
That's
so
right.
What we're doing from a behavioral standpoint is telling us to measure what's important, which is sales, measure what's important, expenses, and whatever's left over, that's what we pay ourselves with. Crumbs. Mm-hmm. No. So we cross that out. Everybody cross that out. The real formula, the round world, not the flat world, the round world is sales minus profit equal expenses. Mm-hmm. Sell, take your profit, manage the business on whatever's left over. But Colleen, what people don't understand is that capital P is representative more than profit. Mm-hmm. It's representative of the business owner paying themselves.
Yeah.
Right. It's representative of having tax for Uncle Sam, regardless of what your liabilities are.
That's right.
Of course, there's going to be a profit, but there also should be security. 3 to 6 months of core capital available at the home and the business, in case a pandemic happens. Right?
That's right.
And also purpose. What is the purpose? What is the mission? Our mission is to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. We say that every day. And it's because we have profit that we're able to do that. Profit is not a bad word. Bad people have a lot of money. They do bad things. But with profit, even if it's 3.5%, business owners can pay down debt if they have it.
Right.
They can celebrate the health of the company.
That's right.
They can hire. When small businesses can hire, people have jobs. When people have jobs, it relieves a lot of stress from the home life.
Yeah.
So when people say, I have no money, Ron, what profit? It's so far down the road. That's okay. I understand that, but you can do it. You can open and, implement the framework.
That's right.
Right. You can start paying yourself. If you also take a look at your expenses, I guarantee you there's anywhere from 3 to 10% of waste in there. And what do I mean by waste? Go line by line down your P&L and identify everything and say, is this necessary for the survival of the business? Yes or no? For the survival of the business.
Yeah.
If it's not, then you can cut it.
I love that piece the most, in getting started, because this is something we used to do back in corporate America when I worked for a company that I brought Profit First to, asked the CFO to please read the book. I was managing hundreds of CEOs at that time in a franchising company, and they were dying. Like the profit was the last thing on the line for them. And they weren't, they were like, I can't feed my family. I have to work 80 hours a week in the business, and so does my husband, just for us to be able to, pay our employees. And they still had their own families to think about. And I couldn't get them to change their mind, because it's exactly what you said, Ron. They think it's an accounting system in the way you do accounting. And so a traditional CPA tries to wrap his head around, or her head around, how to create this traditional, break that traditional type of accounting and create a new system. But the number one thing, once I left corporate America and started coaching, business coaching after 22 years, women that were female entrepreneurs, the number one thing was waste in their business. They were spending money on things that they didn't need to spend money on. And the second thing was, if you could just take 1%, we started so little. I don't care if it's, $10 or $12, whatever it is. Open up these accounts and just start with these few accounts and move it over. And that was key. My husband and I, we had tax bills every year before we started Profit First. And we would always wonder, where are we going to find this money from? It went on a credit card, or we had to do a payment through the IRS. And as soon as we started Profit First and the money was there, every year when our taxes come up, we just have the money and we pay it. It's like, oh, it's just sitting in there. Sometimes it's like, well, it drained everything we had, but that's okay, because that's why the money's sitting there. And other times it's like, well, we have $4,000 left over. What are we going to do with this $4,000 extra dollars that we have, that now, we don't need, because, we overestimated what we thought we owed.
I love overestimating. So one of the things, since you've been in corporate, one of the tips that I share with those that have shifted into entrepreneurial from corporate is I relate it to the 401k, right? Number one savings vehicle in America. Why? Because it's profit first. Yeah. Okay. It's a behavioral system. They're taking it off the top. They're removing it from temptation, and they're making it difficult to get. And if you do get it, you're going to get penalized. Well, that's what profit first is. We're taking it off the top, putting it in a bucket. And the only thing you can use that bucket for is what is labeled on that bucket. Mm-hmm. Right. And my wife and I, when we first started the 401k, we're like, what is this? We put in 3%. Okay. Then we started building our 401k muscle memory. Mm-hmm. We added to 15 eventually over a couple of years. So probably in this third year, we were at 15%. And that was the max at the time. And I was saying to my wife, I said, Mary, can you believe we're living the same lifestyle with literally 30% going away? What? Why is that?
How is that possible?
How is that possible?
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was something out there called Parkinson's law that Mike eloquently explains. That is a theory that also Stephen Hawking echoes, that we are going to exhaust all resources that are given to us at any point of time. That's why, hey, if you have $10,000 in your bank account, you think you're going to spend it. Yeah. You're going to spend it. But here's the best part, Colleen, when resources are limited, when we're not flush with cash, we're more innovative. We do more. We're creative. When this pandemic first started, the innovation that was coming out of America was second to none. It was insane. Right. Then all those, loans and everything came, and you watched the innovation, and that just masked everybody's problem. Again,
right. All the extra money from the government, and everyone was getting fat and happy and getting paid. So then they got lazy.
Yep.
That's exactly what happens when you look at your bank account and you see, oh, I have $12,000 in there, and you're kind of estimating in your head what you think your expenses are. You're like, oh, I'm good. But when you allocate all of that to taxes over here, what your expenses are over here, what your owner compensation is over here, you break that up. And then you look at the number and you're like, I have $2,300 in this account. I better get my butt moving. I got to sell something. That's what I love about it, is it breaks it up to your responsibilities of what you have to pay anyway. It pulls it all out and puts it in the buckets of what you're responsible for. So you're not procrastinating and delaying it till later, which I've found the other piece is, the taxes are such a big piece for my clients, because they delay. And then they don't realize, well, you made all this money. Congratulations. Now you have to pay taxes on it.
Where is all the money? Right? Where is it? It says here on my financials that I made a profit. Where is this profit? Right? You spent it. What do you mean I spent it? You said it's right here.
Right. That's so true. So let's dive in a little bit, because I know the listeners are like, okay, well, I have a business and I pay all my expenses and I wait until the end. And if there's anything left over, and I have a handful of clients that lived this way, they ran their businesses this way. It just dumbfounded me that they would even start a business that way. And so the first thing we did was really work on, what can you get rid of in your business that you don't need? What's essential? And, looking at breaking up those accounts and getting started with just a very small 1% of owner profits. So what are some baby steps that, that people can do to get started? Well, they need to educate themselves. So we definitely, need to talk about the book, because that's kind of the number one step on educating yourself. I'm sure you have some more online resources as well. But
absolutely. But I'm gonna go in a different direction. The number one thing, in my opinion, is reframing your outlook on your business. It is okay where you are today. What you've done today has gotten you to where you are. That's fine. We're not looking back. We're not judging. We're like, okay, maybe it hasn't been the best we wanted it to be. We realize that. Now, what are we going to do about it? Yeah. Are we going to do the same thing over and over? Or are we going to actually take a step forward and realize that it's up to us to actually do that? Right. Yeah. And so the first step is realizing. The second step is, okay, maybe I need to do something a little different. Mm-hmm. Right. Read the book, Profit First. And as I was sharing with you earlier, I'm prepared to gift 10 books out to your listeners. All they have to do is email you and say, hey, I'd love a copy of Profit First. You send me their address. I'll gift it to them on your behalf.
Wow. Did you guys hear that? So all you have to do is email me at info@colleenbiggs.net. That's info@colleenbiggs.net, and say Profit First in the subject line, and that you want a book, and send me your address, and we'll get a book out to you, which is great, because I'm telling you, this is a manual. This is a manual on how to be an entrepreneur with your money in your business, period. Number one.
Yeah. And so one of the things is that, start small. Like I was talking about the 401k, you're not just going to go into a gym and try to lift as much weight as you possibly could. I'd hurt myself. Right. And so you want to start small. You want to build that profit first muscle memory. Don't be overly concerned about the numbers in the book, because that you're not there yet. If you're just starting, right? We're starting and we're going to take the first step forward. First step forward is opening up a bank account. Okay. Most businesses have lots of bank accounts. You only can have 250,000 in one bank, here in America. Mm-hmm. Well, what are all these large corporations doing? They have multiple bank accounts, and they're doing other sophisticated things with their finances. Mm-hmm. So opening up several bank accounts is the number one way to go, because you are going to be experiencing it. So we talk about the foundational 5, but we're just going to talk about one. Okay. And we're going to go off script a little bit here, Colleen.
Sure.
So what is the number one pain in the business? If I were to ask a business owner, hey, if your business afforded you more money, what would you do with that money? And most of the time, depending on their age, they're going to say retirement. I haven't put enough away in retirement. Okay. Well, then what we're going to do is we're probably going to open up a retirement account, not a 401k, but we're just going to do an account, and we're going to see if we can allocate 1% into it. Because if they're saying retirement, then they're paying themselves. Okay. They're living their lifestyle, but they need a little bit more juice out of that business. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to make it very important for them for their retirement. So we're going to have the retirement account. In the book, that would be considered owner's pay, but we're going to go off script. So if it's debt, if it's taxes, you're not paying yourself, whatever that particular pain point is, let's address that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then let's start stacking other accounts. Right. And so the goal of Profit First is to swing the pendulum. When you do a profit assessment, you see basically what is the percentage of money that's going out the door and the percentage that is going to your benefit. Okay. And usually I see companies that it's like 85% out the door, 60% out the door. So much is out. So much is going out the door. Right. The job of Profit First is swing that pendulum back to where most of the money is going to your benefit. Mm-hmm. Right. And so we have to start small. And if you have 85% going out to the expenses, you cut 5%. Well, that at 5% can go into that retirement account. Mm-hmm. We're playing with 100%. That's why the percentages are the best. And so anytime you cut, you can add. Anytime, if you raise your margins, 3%. What will a 3% margin increase do to everybody who's listening right now? That would be awesome.
By the way, all of the coffee shops have raised their margins at least 3 to 5%, because when I went to get a cup of coffee the other day, I was like, I don't remember paying this a couple of years ago. And now a cup of coffee at Starbucks or wherever it is, it's so expensive.
They're testing pricing all across. So a lot of what the companies are doing is you're not going to necessarily see the cost they're going to be changing a lot of companies are micro testing their products 15-20% more, so that's why you're going to see at like a coffee shop, you're just going to see what they are, and then they might have the price of the day written in chalk.
Right.
Yeah. But you have to do it. You have to raise your rates because inflation, if you don't raise your rates, inflation is going to crush you. Can you imagine what would happen to your business if every single one of your vendors said, hey, I got to give you an inflation increase. Here's 8.5%. What would that do to your business?
Yeah, if you're not raising your rates as well. Yeah, absolutely. So that's key. I'm glad that you said that. And just to break that down, Ron is talking about just opening up one bank account and putting in money, whether it be 1%, 2%, 3%, just to relieve that pain point that you have, whether it be taxes or retirement, owner pay, whatever it is that he's saying is, your pain point. And just as a reminder, he wants to give us 10 books for free. So you just email me at info@colleenbiggs.net and put profit first in the subject line, and we'll get you a free book. Make sure you give me your address so that my team can get it over to Ron so we can get you a free book. That's really nice of you for doing that, Ron. What would you say in all of the people that you've worked with? I would love to hear, let's share a quick story, if you don't mind, of someone that you worked with that, really didn't understand profit first and started implementing it because it was a necessity or their business was going to go out of business. Tell me a good story of a client that you guys have worked with or has educated that has been able to turn their business around or just turn their mindset around on running a business. Because why are we running businesses? It provides us revenue to live our lifestyle, right? I understand that, but are you going to sell that business in the future? Setting your business up to sell in the future, it becomes more valuable when you have these types of processes in place.
I love you, because you're right. Because what are people buying? Right?
Yeah.
They're buying processes, systems,
that's right.
Profit. Many business owners want to use their business, the sell of it, as their retirement. Unfortunately, they're not well run. And unfortunately, a lot of the tax preparers out there have been hurting the growth of businesses by inflating the expenses to minimize the tax burden.
That's right.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So if you want to generate a greater EBITDA, if you want to have a higher multiple of what your business is, well, then you need to do this. You talk to any business valuator, they're going to tell it's going to take 3 to 5 years to get your business in the right shape for it to be sold properly.
Right. Yeah.
Start doing this now.
And 70% of them won't even sell.
No,
70% of them won't even sell. Yeah. Because they're not valued correctly. They don't have the processes in place. So tell us a quick story of someone maybe that you've worked with. And then of course, we'll let them know how they can connect with you more on some social media platforms and how they can find out more about Profit First.
The success stories that have come to us through from all over the globe have been tremendous. And, Mike and I get, tears in our eyes when we're reading them. So, some of the ones that really stand out to me is a professional, his son, unfortunately passed away of cancer after about several years of fighting, over $750,000 in debt. Paid it off because of Profit First.
Wow.
Here's another one. Before I joined Profit First with Mike, I wanted to speak to a few people that he had successfully implemented it in. So I ended up speaking to a lady, and she told me that, okay, here's the deal. It's because of Profit First that I was able to keep my household together and keep my family together while I was pregnant and my husband left me.
Yeah.
Maternity account.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But it's because that she was able to have the stockpile of money that, that was devastating. And she's doing great now. She's remarried, living the life, right?
Yeah.
But this is true life happenings. This
Yeah.
shit happens and it's bad. And so whether it's, somebody having to send their kid to, special needs school, whether it's somebody who's got to pay down debt, whether it's somebody who has to send their parent to elderly care, a lot of these things, or even having enough money to buy food.
Right.
To buy food.
Yeah.
Right. It's crazy. So, I mean, we've have thousands upon thousands of stories. There's also the materialistic type of things that are good. People buying houses, people buying grand vacations, people family trips all over, sports cars, pools, things like that. That's the fun stuff. That's nice, but that's not what it's all about. It's about fiscal responsibility and having the money available that you need should something happen.
Yeah. And the thing of this is the money is already there. That's what I've told people over and over again. The money is already there. It's not that you have to go out and this is some ploy for you to, do a magic trick so that it makes you go out and, generate more income. The money is already there. It just comes down to how are you allocating and utilizing the money that you already have. And it's insane to me that any business owner would wait and pay themselves last because you're not worth it, because you're worth crazy. Dirt and you're the one doing the 60, 70 hours a week in the business, but you don't deserve to be paid for that. So tell me if you would go get a job tomorrow if someone offered to hire you and said, we're not going to pay you. You need to work 60 hours a week and you're not going to get any benefits. Yeah. Would you take the job? Of course you wouldn't. No. But yet you'll happily run your business that way because you're an entrepreneur. And it makes no sense to me why you wait to pay yourself.
Well, it's funny. I talk with a lot of startups in high school and college and stuff. I'm like, it ain't cool sleeping on your mom's couch when you're 30. I don't care what they tell you. Right. And so let's bust this doctrine of sacrifice. Yeah. The entrepreneur does not need to sacrifice. The startup does not need to sacrifice. If you are looking to be a high growth business and plow everything back into it, you could still operate in the profit first framework.
That's right.
You could still do it. I mean, nothing was better, Colleen, than getting up every morning and just knowing when we're building the business, hey, I just have to sell. Our first checks, very small. Yeah. But at least we had the system. Yeah. We had it. Even our first profit distribution, went and got coffee.
Yeah.
Right. Big deal. Yeah. But now over this pandemic, we've been in a position to continually to provide quarterly profit distributions and year-end profit distributions for our staff because of this system over the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important to make mention of that. So if you want to make profit first in your business, I highly suggest that you connect with Ron. And Ron, what are some of those ways that people can connect with you? What are some of the best
LinkedIn.
ways?
LinkedIn's a great place. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Facebook. I'm on Facebook as well. Okay. The website is a great way to find. We have tons of free information in there as well. Like you look at that little hamburger thing and then click on it. It'll have tons of free resources in there. Okay. An email. Yeah. My email's out
great. There. All right. So that's profitfirstprofessionals.com, profitfirstprofessionals.com. Like I said, email me at info@colleenbiggs.net, put subject line profit first in your address. We'll get you a free profit first book. This book right here is going to change your life, I promise you. And you're going to get to know Mike Michalowicz a little bit better, who is the author behind the book. And Ron, we're so thankful to have had you here today to join us in educating our listeners on how they can become profitable in their businesses that they feel is just sucking all of their time, all of their energy. And they just feel like every month they're just generating more income and paying more bills. And we don't want them to live that way. So there is a better way, and it's called Profit First, everyone. And I just want to remind everybody that you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that will ever be. So how you navigate your processes in your business is up to you. Nobody's coming. No one's going to give you permission to do it one way or the other. Get in contact with a profit first professional, work with a profit first bookkeeper. There's so many options out there. So if you even struggle with learning how to do it, you can work with a professional that does know how to do it and can assist you with your funds and with your money and with your accounts and how it works. But it is, to me, it's easy, it's simple. And then you're right, Ron, we wake up every day and then we know whether we like it or not, we're in sales and marketing. Every single one of us that own a business, we're in sales and marketing. All you have to do is just get up and sell, and you know what the processes are in the business, and the distributions will always be there. I love it. So Ron, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a wonderful show. And for all of you that joined us, thank you for being here. And until next time, be you and be strong. Bye-bye. Thanks, for now. Everybody. Bye-bye.